The idea that you can't do any comparison. There's no point talking about anywhere else in the world. An idea that took seed roughly the moment they decided to drop international comparisons from the daily press conferences. So, look, there are obvious differences between, for example, New Zealand and the United Kingdom. Obvious and epic differences. But when people say that you can't compare two countries to each other, do you know what they're really saying? Yeah, they're really saying that you can't compare two leaders to each other. So I look at Jacinda Ardern or Angela Merkel or the Prime Minister of Japan, and I see attitudes, conduct, decisions, explanations, and then I look at Boris Johnson and I don't see those things. That's got nothing to do with the demographics or the geography of these islands and everything to do with the character of these people. So to pick just two, New Zealand and the United Kingdom, Jacinda Ardern and Boris Johnson. As I say, this is a work in progress, but here's an early report on how that comparison is going to look to historians of the future.
There were some countries who initially talked about herd immunity as a strategy. In New Zealand, we never, ever considered that as a possibility, ever. Herd immunity would have meant tens of thousands of New Zealanders dying, and I simply would not tolerate that, and I don't think any New Zealander would.
And it's important to recognise it's not to stop everybody getting it. You can't do that. It's not possible to stop everybody getting it, and it's also actually not desirable because you want some immunity in the population.
And one of the theories is that, perhaps you could sort of take it on the chin, take it all in one go and allow the disease, as it were, to move through the population, without really taking as many draconian measures.
The situation here is moving at pace, and so must we.
Actually, slightly counterintuitively, things like closing schools and stopping big gatherings don't work as well, perhaps, as people think.
As of midnight Sunday, every person entering New Zealand, including returning New Zealand citizens and residents, will be required to enter self-isolation for 14 days. Everybody.
Well, there are 15,000 passengers still arriving every single day entering Britain. And the key part is that they are still entering with no checks, no measures, no tests, no mandatory quarantine. There is not even any advice for self-isolation. There is no requirement for that.
It's always worth stressing with this that for the overwhelming majority of people, this is going to be, who get it, this is going to be a mild to moderate illness.
Pardon? A mild to moderate illness. Now, everyone makes mistakes. And Chris Whitty and Patrick Vallance changed their advice as the facts change. But my goodness me, if you don't think we should be comparing countries, you can't really argue with the idea that the least we could do is compare the performances of leaders, can you? Those last words there chilled me to the core. Let's just check we didn't miss here.
It's always worth stressing with this that for the overwhelming majority of people, this is going to be, who get it, this is going to be a mild to moderate illness.
No, okay, yeah, not quite as bad as I initially thought, because I suppose for the majority of people that get it, it is going to be a mild to moderate illness. But the 81,431 families grieving a dead loved one would probably have chosen slightly different approaches and slightly different adjectives from the ones that the Prime Minister favoured. But don't compare the countries. The countries are very different. Compare the leaders.